pardon me while I shake you all over the place. Again, my gooseneck busted last night, so it's not working quite right. Okay, this is a painting I started last night very quickly, and I'm quite happy with it. It's a painting of Acrylic Lighthouse. I have a photograph of it down here to my right. Obviously, it's a picture taken through trees, undergrowth, scruffy plant life, and I think that's a big part of what gives it its charm, of course. And I also did an orange, pinkish, salmony colored underpainting under the sky, which I'm quite happy with the effect that is having on it. At the moment, I'm doing a ultramarine glaze over this part of the painting. And now I'm going to switch to burnt sienna down here. Of course, the two glazes crash into each other and meld together in the middle. This is usually what I want to have happen. Now, my idea here on this painting is I don't want to do an awful lot to it because it's working quite well as it is. At the moment, I just want to diminish these light bits down here at the bottom. Okay, now before I proceed, let's get everything as dark as it needs to be. So I've got some purple, some burnt sienna, some viridian green and dioxazine purple mixed together make a very pleasant dark color. Having a little bit of trouble with my easel. Come on. Okay, there we go. There. So I want some darkness. Where do I want the darkest areas of this painting to be? Yeah, down there. So if I'm not finished with this painting in the next 40 minutes, I will consider myself to have blown it greatly, because the painting almost worked completely as it was just a few minutes ago. So, okay, glazes are done. Let's do some pencil lines. I'm gonna blow up the image down here so I can clearly see the top of the lighthouse, which, yes, the top of the lighthouse absolutely does go off the top of the canvas. That's a pretty typical trick of mine. Whenever I want a building to appear tall, or an object, not a building, any object, if I want it to appear tall in the painting, I will be careful to make it spill out over the top of the canvas. That doesn't have the effect of making it appear short. It has the effect of making it appear tall. So remember that trick. If you ever want to use that, you have my permission. And again, I'm using the pencils not just because it's a convenient way to render the image. It certainly is that. It is indeed a convenient way to render the image. But I'm using them mostly because I like the effect that is achieved. I like the combination of smooshy paint and scratchy pencil. I think it looks cool. Okay, that's all I'm going to say about that for now. And now I've got these bare tree branches. Coming down in front of the lighthouse. Again, the cacophony of branches. How's that for a word? Yeah, looks like a bunch of branches to me. I don't know what it looks like to you. It looks like a bunch of bare branches. And of course, I'm not done yet. I've got to come in and do some paint around. Hello, gang. Sorry I lost you for a while there, and I don't know how long you've been gone, so I'll just pick up right where I was. I'm going to zoom you in to this part of the painting so you can hopefully really see what's going on. And I'm doing opaque blue, and of course I'm going to cover up some of this orange, but being careful not to do too much. Some of these branches were painted with purple paint, some were painted with blue, some were painted just with a neutral dark color. Of course, neutral dark color, that phrase is an oxymoron, right? You understand that? If it's neutral, it's not a color. I think this is a good example of how to render trees, of course, but really any busy passage, any busy subject matter, anything that's got a lot of detail. How do you render it? The answer is in layers, by degrees, stage by stage. And I think I started this painting yesterday evening, so not exactly sure, but I think this is the 7th layer of rendering on these bare branches. Maybe the 8th. And between you and me, I think they look quite a bit like real bare branches. It's the process that makes it work. It is the step 1, 2, 3, A, B, C, D, E that is making them look believable. Probably my number one pet peeve for most student landscapes is stick-ish trees. Please don't paint stick-ish trees. And I have a whole video out there somewhere about what stickish trees are and how to avoid them. I'm not gonna repeat the whole thing right now. Okay, sorry about that. I don't know how long you were off. I will just continue right where I was. I was talking about stick-y trees, how to avoid stick-ish trees, and I said I think this is the 7th touch on these trees, the 7th layer, to avoid the stick-ish feeling. What I mean by that is, all you have to do is go to Google and type landscape, maybe painting landscape, and start going down through the list, and you'll find dozens of amateur landscapes where the trees, I like to say, the student typically gets tired after painting about maybe I'll give benefit 150 branches. And then I like to ask, so how many branches do you suppose there are really truly on that tree you're painting? The answer is maybe, roughly speaking, 150,000. And you missed, when you're painting, you missed the number by 1,000-fold. Now how do you feel? Duly humiliated, I'm sure. Now, my point is to make the point. So you've got to come up with a technique, a process for rendering trees that doesn't, and here I'm talking mainly about bare trees like this. Same thing applies to foliage. How do you paint any busy subject matter? My answer is step by layer by layer by layer, not all at once. And too many times, students want to achieve their final layer on their first layer. Okay, I've ranted about that quite long enough. Let's move on to other things. I mentioned earlier that the pencil lines that I had put on the edges of the lighthouse, especially, were entirely too much. So I'm being careful to come in here and cover up much of those lines. So bare trees over here, foliage over here, both very busy subjects, and both achieved in the same manner. That is, layer by layer by layer. So likewise, this is about the 8th time. Maybe someday I'll do just a demo on just painting trees. Foliage. I'm not talking about the trunk here. I'm talking about the busy part. And how to avoid overly simplistic, ugly trees that we see too many times in amateur paintings. I want you to be a professional. If you're not a professional, I want you to paint like one, okay? So we're going to learn how to not do ugly trees. I just mixed up a slightly lighter and more yellow version of the sky color. So as I get down to the horizon, of course, the color gets lighter. Another way to say what I've been saying here is that how do you do sky holes? How do you do them well? The answer is you don't do them all at once. You do several layers of sky holes. And that's certainly what has happened over here. Now they're getting to be a little bit too uniform, so let's throw in some change up here. You have to watch out for that. The human mind loves order and pattern, so we will accidentally insert order into a random. Random is, how the sky appears through branches, and as human beings, we will accidentally create order where there shouldn't be any. It's hard to do chaos. Hard for human beings to do random. Okay, I'm going to call that done. Let me take time to clean those brushes. Let's just go to some new brushes. And I want to go to the white side of the lighthouse. I'm mixing up some Naples yellow and titanium white. Yeah, I don't need too much of this, just a little bit. Just a little, give the lighthouse just a little bit more of a glow. Now, this might be a case where me, the weird artist, is out of touch with ordinary Joe or Josephine art buyer. Because it may be that ordinary Josephine art buyer, they just want a painting of the Acrylic lighthouse. They just want a postcard picture, and the postcard picture of the Acrylic lighthouse is death to me. Visual, like, oh crap! No, I don't want to see. I do not want to see. Again, it's probably because I'm the weird artist here. So yesterday I was actually riding my bike around town, and I saw this angle of the lighthouse that I've never seen before, literally with dead branches going across it. I went, yeah, that's what I'm looking for. And I may be financially shooting myself in the foot because Joe or Josephine, ordinary person, they go, why'd he put those branches in front of the lighthouse? There you go. It's hard being an artist sometimes because we do see the world differently. My friend David Dunlop, you can Google him. He does a lot of historical and psychological studies about art and how people look at things, and he confirms it is true. artists do literally look at the world differently than non-artists. So, probably guilty as charged. Okay, that's just about got that. Let me mix up a little bit of something very pale to do the shady side of the lighthouse here for just a minute. I'm mixing up all kinds of colors, purple, brown, yellow ochre, to try to achieve this color over here. Okay, it needs a little bit more yellow in it. I'm trying to mix up an opaque version of whatever color this is over here. Now it needs a little more purple in it. Nope, needs a little bit more phthalo blue in it. This is very, by the way, and if you paint like me, if you want to paint like me, this is a very important step in the process, which is this layer, this stuff right here is like 6 layers of color, right? Several acrylic layers, and then the oil glaze. So whatever color I've ended up with, I don't know what to call it, doesn't matter. But one of the tricks is if I can mix up an opaque version of that, I can have some real fun with it, because I get to play with people's eyes big time, serious. They can't quite tell what is on top of what. I've talked about this quite a bit today with my other videos. We get a kick, our eyes get a kick out of being tricked or fooled by what's on top of what. It is very counterintuitive. Most of us would say, no, I do not like being manipulated. But the fact is, when it comes to visual art, yes, you do like being manipulated. The better the artist is, the more perfectly and effectively he or she is manipulating the viewer. We love being manipulated. Very counterintuitive, I understand. Some of you are still arguing, say, no, I don't like. If you like art, it's because you like being manipulated. And you like being manipulated well. That's my job as an artist, is to learn how to manipulate the viewer. The better I am, the more skillfully the viewer will be manipulated. Isn't that weird? Like I said, I keep saying counterintuitive, but so true. It creates literal ecstasy in our brains. Let's do a little bit more of the shed down here. And I got a little bit too much pencil line in here, so let's cover up some of that pencil. There we go. Okay. I'm very close to finished. I'm going to mix up a medium dark buff yellow color for the base of the, see, the lighthouse generally goes from light to dark, generally speaking, as we come down, because the brightest light is hitting up there. In fact, having said that, I'm going to grab a brush and do a tiny bit of, not pure white, but very close to pure white, way up here at the top. And up here. Yeah, I'm going to wipe out, there's a little line there I just obliterated. It was unnecessary. Okay, now having done that, I'm going to hopefully pick up a clean brush and blend that out. Yes, there we go. Perfect. Now all I need to do is come in here and replace what I just took off. There, that was a nice touch. That little swoosh. Beautiful. When an artist is beautiful like that, they're not bragging or showing off. They're surprised. That's an expression of surprise. Like, hot dog, how'd that happen? That's an expression of delight, authenticity, childlike authenticity. Just want to make sure you understand that. Part of the reason I'm an okay painter is because I've managed to keep the child alive. Some of you won't be a good painter until you revive the child that has died. A lot of truth in that statement. I'm not going to belabor it any more than that. This might be my best painting this weekend so far. It's by far the quickest. That really does happen sometimes. Okay, one more thing I'm going to do, and then I'm going to hang up, leave you guys, and I'm going to think hard about this. But I want to show you one thing. I talked about this earlier, and I don't know if you caught it or not. So I did on the sky up here, I did a bunch of underpainting in orange. The sky was orange. Then I painted blue on top of it, right? And you still see the orange peeking through. It's kind of a viridian, salmon-y orange color. So I've just mixed up here that same exact color, an opaque version of it. And I'm going to come in here and do just some little bits of that orange on top of what's already, it needs to be a little bit redder, I see. Because, again, because our eye gets a kick out of being tricked by what's on top of what. So we'll quickly discern that the orange that's there now is underneath the blue paint. But then when I come in and introduce these little flecks of orange on top, our brain goes buddly, 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 just like that. And that buddly, buddly is an extremely pleasurable sensation. That little confusion about what's on top of what. I'm going to put some orange in the light even. Okay, so that's all. I'm going to hang up, and I'll try to post a video of the finished painting when I'm all done. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks, Toby. Good words, man. I hope the child is still alive. Good for you, man.